Texans with Union sympathies had fled southward across the river. Some had gone north by boat from Baghdad and other Mexican ports to join Lincoln's forces and wear the blue. Others remained in Mexico. Many of these waited impatiently in Matamoros, listening eagerly for war news, looking across the river with longing eyes at a homeland that now had become an enemy. Sometimes, in league with border bandits of either Anglo or Mexican blood, these men swam the river at night to raid and burn in the name of the Union, then ride back to sanctuary across that narrow, muddy boundary. Renegados, the Confederate Texans called them, using the Mexican name. It was a time of indistinct loyalties and confused hatreds, when friends had become enemies and old enemies had somehow become friends, a mixed-up time when all the rules had been lost. Frio Wheeler touched big roweled Mexican spurs to his sorrel's ribs and moved him into an easy trot. Wheeler sat upright in the saddle, shoulders squared with a pride born of his place and time. He was in his early 30s, though it would have been hard to guess his age from looking at him. He was a man seldom under roof. His skin was burned Mexican brown from the scorching sun of Texas's ancient Camino Real, the Royal Road, and from wagon trails through the Wild Horse Desert and the Chaparral. His brown hair, which needed a cutting, was beginning to show a glint of gray. Turkey tracks had bitten deep at the corners of his blue eyes, for he habitually squinted against the glare of the sun-drenched land. Riding beside him, Blas Talamantes was the more spectacular. His high-peaked Mexican sombrero was twice as wide as Wheeler's plain old black hat. His brown leather breeches were decorated with lacing, laboriously sewn by a loving woman's nimble fingers. Wheeler had allowed his big spurs to darken with grime and tarnish, but Talamantes had kept his own polished to a bright silver. Both men rode with collars and sleeves buttoned against the sun. There was much about them that was similar, size, build, and age. By a like token, there was much that was different, their upbringing, their heritage of two cultures a world apart. To Wheeler, the first consideration always was to tend to the business at hand. To Blas, business was not unimportant, but a man should also seek out whatever beauty, love, and adventure the day might yield, for there might not be a tomorrow. And if there were no tomorrow, the business would have been of little import. The two men had ridden together a long time now, and the things about them that were different had been put aside. Wheeler was patron, and Talamantes was the man hired. But over and beyond that, they were compadres, so that it was not always apparent who was patron and who was empleado. Blas Talamantes had the better ears. "Frio, I hear shooting." Frio stopped and slowly turned his head, seeking the sound. It came to him on the hot breeze from up trail. "Renegados," he guessed, his mouth drawn tight. "They've hit some small outfit that's short of men." "Maybe yours," said Blas. They rode on with their rifles ready. The firing was nearer now, dropping down to a few sporadic shots and eventually stopping altogether. Presently, they saw white smoke begin to spiral upward over the brush. "Cotton smoke," Frio said. "I expect that's some CSA bales that'll never make it to Matamoros." They heard hoofbeats drumming toward them. Frio jerked his head to one side, signaling Blas to pull out of the trail. "Two of us couldn't dent them much," he said, "but they could plow us under." This was a hostile country where almost everything went armed for its own protection, whether it be plant life or animal. The thick mesquites and cat claws at trailside were white-flecked with cotton scraps that their tough thorns had ripped from bale-laden wagons. Frio and Blas sought a way through this brush and the thick growth of man-tall prickly pear. They dismounted, rifles in hand, and stood with fingers over their horses' nostrils. The sound of the hooves came louder.